Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Raj Giri. Tonight we're going to talk about Monday Night Raw for February 6th, 2017. Mr. Matt Morgan is still on vacation in Hawaii. If you've been following him on Instagram, it looks lovely there. He should be back with us Sunday night when we do the Elimination Chamber coverage. But for tonight, Monday Night Raw, Samoa Joe continuing. This is the extension, right? The full-fledged debut after he appeared at the end of last week's Monday Night Raw, taking out Seth Rollins. Tonight, we actually saw him in a match with Roman Reigns. Raj, what did you think of Raw overall?
I thought it was pretty good. They're building up their top matches for for WrestleMania and for Fastlane. So, I thought the show did a good job in doing that. Plus, it gave Samoa Joe a win, although, needing. We'll get to it, but needing outside interference, but at least he got the win. So,
yes, at least he got the win. That counts for something. So for me, it was a mixed night. I thought that the show moved at a comfortable pace, which I thought was good. I didn't think there were too many lulls in it. I thought there were definitely some high spots. But that being said, let's go segment by segment. Before we do that, though, Raj, have you heard anything? What's the latest on the Seth Rollins injury situation? It's just looking like he's going to be out for the foreseeable future now.
The only new thing is that he flew back to Birmingham, Alabama. So that's twice, in a week. So it's what that means. We don't know if he had surgery or what. But yeah, WWE really had like no update whatsoever on Raw tonight. MCL. It's saying there's a chance he could make it back by Mania, and they could do just a storyline match where a storyline where Triple H is just working the knee and destroying him the whole match, and beats him by submission or something like that.
Yeah,
and then doing a rematch down the road.
That is true. Tonight we opened up with the package recapping everything that happened at the end of last week's Monday Night Raw. And in case you missed it at the top of the show, they reran the package later in the episode. But showing, obviously with Samoa Joe coming out, taking out Seth Rollins. We're live from Portland, Oregon this week. And we had Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon in the ring, welcoming Samoa Joe in a suit, no less, only to be interrupted by Roman Reigns. So what did you make of this sort of idea now that they're sort of setting this up with furthering the split between Foley and Stephanie here, with Stephanie almost forming a neo authority now with Triple H and Samoa Joe?
It's well, I thought Samoa Joe coming out in a suit seemed kind of weird to me. I don't know what you thought, but if you're pushing someone as like this killer destroyer, coming out all nice and dapper. He looked, kind of like a bouncer at a Vegas nightclub or something. So
at a very classy, high end.
Right? Nightclub. Yeah, exactly. In one of the nice hotels. But yeah, I thought Samoa Joe delivered a great promo. I thought Roman Reigns was good here too, and it was a different main event. That's the second NXT guy that's come up and gotten a win right off the bat over Roman Reigns, because they did the same thing with Finn Balor.
Yeah, although Finn's win was much, I think, more surprising. I think the way they did it tonight with the interference certainly made it a little more, protecting Roman, as opposed to where it's Finn just, legitimately got that victory. And it was
right, Finn's was clean.
Yeah. So, I liked the segment. I liked the setup. Interesting that maybe it's kind of working a little bit, given Reigns, a little relief from his typical crowd reaction. The people chanting at Samoa Joe, "You sold out tonight." I thought that was a nice crowd touch.
Yeah. And Stephanie McMahon yelling at Mick Foley again. Look, I don't know if Mick Foley is like, this is his idea to be constantly dressed down by Stephanie. But I'm almost looking forward to when he does step down as GM, because I think this role has just hurt him. He looks less and less like this legendary wrestler that he is. Each week he's in this role. So yeah, I think with Stephanie there, it doesn't do him any favors.
So we went from that segment to Bayley versus Nia Jax. And I thought this was interesting tonight. Now, Raj, I know when you predicted this before, I was so disappointed, but everything I'm seeing online is saying like it looks like it is indeed going to be a four-way between Bayley, Nia Jax, Charlotte, and Sasha at WrestleMania. I think this further sets it up, right? We had the fight. Interesting that Nia Jax won due to the distraction of Charlotte, which I thought was almost kind of unnecessary, seeing as they'd shown that Bayley and Nia were kind of, they could go either way based on their past matchups.
Yeah, and they're not even like really trying with these distractions anymore. I mean, that was such a weak distraction. But yeah, I mean, they're kind of all four of these women now are kind of all thrown in. So yeah, of course, Bayley loses and gets a title shot next week, which logically makes no sense, but WWE does that all the time.
Yes, it is one of their favorite moves. But speaking of moves, though, what did you think of the ring work with this? I did not think this quite matched their previous matchups, but I thought it was fairly solid up until the distraction.
I think it went too long.
Yeah.
I think you could have done this within one commercial break. I don't know. Tonight's Raw, I don't know if, just to me, the commercial breaks just felt like they went on forever. Like it just, especially towards the end. But yeah, so I think it definitely could have been shorter, but it wasn't that good, but it was, fine for where they're going.
Well, and what's interesting tonight, and it's funny you mentioned that with commercials, I almost wonder if there is indeed, it did seem like there were more commercials tonight, and I wonder if there is greater demand now that we are past football.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that is something to do with
and the USA Network handles all the advertising, so
yeah.
It's WWE doesn't. So
yeah. But also kind of interesting, right? I mean, it shows that they can vote of confidence in the women for them to put that match as the first wrestling action of the night again, post football season, post Super Bowl, which I thought was kind of nice to see that at least they mixed that up a little bit. After that, we went to announcing Sami Zayn versus Chris Jericho with the title on the line this week as opposed to last week. Also, that we're going to have Cesaro and Sheamus getting a rematch at the Raw Tag Team Championship against Gallows and Anderson. But before that, we had a handicap match, Braun Strowman versus four jobbers, Dusty Wallace, James Stock, CC Bonin, and Rob Pele. What did you make of that match, Raj?
I got a kick out of the guy that was trying to walk away.
Yeah, he just ran to the back.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't, have they done a 4-on-1 handicap match before?
I feel like he did. No, he did 3 before, right?
I think he might have done 2 or 3. I think Ryback's done 3 before, but I can't remember the last time they've done a 4-on-1 handicap match ever in WWE. So
well, it's good they're taking pages from the Ryback playbook. That's very well for Braun Strowman's future in the WWE.
Well, hey, Ryback was working until
he asked for more money.
No, until John Cena got injured and he was put in that CM Punk program. Because they were doing that slow build with them, and he was coming. I mean, he was getting over with the crowd, and then once Punk beat him, and then beat him again on the next pay-per-view, it just killed all his momentum.
Well, even on the pre-show of Mania this past year, I mean, he was having an all right run of things. I mean, I think in renegotiating, and maybe he thought it was time. I've read a few of his interviews there, but I mean, it wasn't like he was buried, when
he pretty much was losing to Kalisto on the pre-show, and
it was a title match.
Yeah, a title that doesn't matter.
Arguably the better of the Lucha Dragons. I mean, it's not like he lost to Sin Cara. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, but for where he once was, and
yes,
it was a far fall.
The one thing I liked about the handicap match, I like that they did the triple pin at the end. I think that with Braun, they need to get back to this a little bit, right? We've seen him as the great interferer in recent weeks, and he's been in these multi-man matchups, as part of a team or these different scenarios. But I think they should do more stuff like this, but do it with, even more stunts, more gimmicks, more ways to just make it entertaining. I think if this is the path they're going to put him on, until his next matchup with Reigns.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 4 weeks to go, so 3 more episodes of Raw.
Yeah, and weird for them to start plugging Fastlane tonight, right? I mean, I know that Elimination Chamber is coming up this Sunday, but it was interesting to be like 4 weeks away. Let's start talking about the matches 4 weeks away.
I think that's better. I think it's better when you got like the top matches announced well ahead of time.
It does give it a sense of momentum and purpose, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And the top feuds, it builds. Like TNA will announce the main event like the week of, and nobody buys those pay-per-views. So, I think I like it way better when they announce it well in advance.
I feel like storyline wise, it just sort of boxes you in. The path.
It should be boxed in though for your main events. Yeah.
Well, I agree with that, except hear me out on this. It's the WWE. So what it really means is it's boxed in, and we're just going to see variations of that same main event they want us to see on the pay-per-view in the weeks leading up to it. So by the time it gets there, we've already seen the tag match version. We've already seen the triple threat version. You know, I feel like they, I don't know, kind of run it into the ground rather than.
We won't in this case. Because Goldberg's not wrestling before Fastlane.
That's true, and we will talk about that. But no, I think with Reigns and Strowman, if that is going to be the Fastlane match that we're going to see, it's not like they're going to be completely sequestered from each other.
All right. Yeah, I mean, we saw some of it tonight.
Yeah, but with Goldberg, you're absolutely right, and I thought that was very nice in how they did that build. So after that, what did you make of that, and where do you think it's going with Braun talking about, you know, that he literally wants like the entire locker room basically as his opponent? I thought that was kind of a nice little motivation, like that he just wants like a Royal Rumble match where it's basically just Braun versus all.
Well, to me, what that came across was a hint at him being in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
An entrant one. That's how they should.
But at the same time, I can't see WWE holding on to that line from Strowman. After Fastlane, to put him in that match, because they're not going to announce him in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal before Fastlane. So,
but if they have nothing for him, I could absolutely see that happening.
No, that's what I think it will be. I think
he could be the first entrant. I think he could win the entire thing.
Well, it's a Battle Royal, so it's not timed.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah. I mean,
Battle Royal armbar as opposed to the Royal Rumble.
You have him clear everyone out. You know, you just kind of have him dominate the whole thing and win it. I think it keeps his momentum going because there's no real clear matchup for him at Mania right now. Yeah.
So what did you think of Akira Tozawa versus Drew Gulak?
I thought this was good. I was impressed with the reaction that Tozawa got too. He got a better reaction than most cruiserweights do on Raw.
Especially compared to the second cruiserweight segment.
Right, yeah, exactly. And, I love Tozawa, his snap German suplex. So, yeah, I thought it was a good debut.
Yeah, I thought he looked great. I think it's a shame, though, that it's within the context of the cruiserweight division. I just feel like it's so hard to get enthusiasm for that.
I think they need to treat it like how they do with the women's division. Don't need to change the ropes and act like it's a separate show on your show. Just keep the ropes the same. It's just a different championship. So,
well, I feel if Neville has been a success, I think they should be looking for other performers who have existing followings. Now, granted, Neville is more of a cult-like following than the WWE, but put in some performers that we care about with the cruiserweight talent that maybe we're not as exposed to yet.
Well, it does look like they're starting to build Austin Aries for that role.
Yeah.
Like, giving him interview time where he's helping get himself over. He comes across as, the most charismatic guy in that division by far. So, but I think the problem with Neville, I think he's done such a fantastic job, but the crowd isn't reacting to him because they don't react to this division. Yeah. So he gets he's not getting near the amount of heat he should be getting.
Well, because I don't think people are that invested in Neville being the most recognizable face. If Neville's the heel in the situation, I mean, I don't know how that is in your household, but over here we're rooting for Neville each week because we really like Neville. I don't care if he's a bad guy, good guy. I like Neville.
Yeah. But to most people, on TV, they're not cheering him that much when he comes out.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a problem.
He comes across as the only quasi star right now on 205 Live, and that's a problem.
Well, he is. I mean, right?
He is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they've done what they can. So, I mean, Brian Kendrick came out at the end of that and offered a handshake to Tozawa, pardon me. And, but that's the thing. I mean, Kendrick and Perkins, they've pushed to the high heavens. But I feel like with the other guys, I don't know. I feel like they could have really used Jack Gallagher when they launched this division. I think with more colorful characters and more entertaining segments, I think people would be paying attention more.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they need to do. Yes. So,
and I can't even. Yeah, it's just how long do you think the cruiserweights are going to last on Monday Night Raw? If we're looking WrestleMania 2018, do you think a year from now on the road to WrestleMania, you think that they're gone?
I'd be surprised if they're around by SummerSlam.
Okay. there you have it. I think I could almost see after WrestleMania, they say, you know what, maybe the next draft, maybe they get drafted, although drafted into SmackDown. SmackDown actually doesn't have enough time. So I think, but they could integrate them there, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I still think you just have it be a title and get rid of the ropes and not, because I think just once they change that to that purple lighting and everything, it just kind of kills the mood.
Yeah. So something I thought set a great mood was when Owens and Jericho did their little thing in the ring and got interrupted by Goldberg. So it's set now, Goldberg versus Owens at Fastlane, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on everything we're reading, it's set. Goldberg is going to win the title at Fastlane.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks. So,
which feels so anticlimactic, but it's funny though, because I mean, you think about Game of Thrones, you think about any other TV show, and a lot of times you feel like you know where it's going towards the end of the season or the payoff, and it's not ruined there. So, I mean, in your mind, now granted, you do this for a living, but does it feel like, you just want to be proven wrong? Like the unpredictable becomes the enjoyable at that point because you feel like, oh, it's so predetermined, which is funny to say that it's so predetermined, but it's predetermined this far in advance.
Not really. I mean, if it's the right move, if you're building to the right match, and Goldberg versus Lesnar is the right match, then yeah, I think it's the right move to make. And I don't like when they change things around just for the sake of changing things around. But when you stick to a plan, that helps create better storylines when it's planned out well in advance. And so yeah, I think it's good that they do that. Now you look at Seth Rollins' injury, and if he can't make WrestleMania, then that that makes things very interesting with where they'd go with Triple H. Or,
maybe crazy idea. Maybe Triple H doesn't need to have a match at WrestleMania this year.
Yeah, I agree, but he will.
And I like
Triple H is getting that WrestleMania paycheck.
But it's like that idea. I mean, it's like, that's like saying, like, hey, we got to include the whole gang. And it could very well end up being Shane versus Triple H, like all the rumors online are saying, which would be interesting on some levels. What's the opposite of interesting? Uninteresting. Very uninteresting on other levels.
It'll be interesting to see, just because who knows what their relationship is like. I'm sure. I mean, they'll be professional and work together, but they haven't been seen together once since Shane McMahon returned. Even when they were showing the backstage footage from last year's WrestleMania on that the 24. WWE 24, and they had Stephanie McMahon, embracing Shane after his match with Undertaker. Triple H was nowhere to be seen.
Very good documentary, by the way.
Those are excellent. I like all the ones that they do. But
they could do that on anything and convince me it was like the greatest WWE event of all time when they do those 24 documentaries behind it, because they really know how to tell the emotion, the beats, just to get the best moments out.
Yeah. But I do think, going back to that, I think Shane versus Triple H would be fascinating. But then you got AJ Styles kind of with no one, Yeah. And you got Samoa Joe too. So, we'll have to see where they go with those guys. I mean, Samoa Joe's kind of without anyone for Fastlane. So, yeah.
I'm sure though. Well, if they don't come up with something, I could very well see him, he could interfere with the Reigns Strowman match.
I don't, but why?
I don't know. Is there always a clear-cut motivation?
Yeah, I mean, if they're building to Samoa Joe versus Reigns, then yeah. I mean, it would make sense for Undertaker. It would make more sense for Undertaker to interfere, since Undertaker versus Reigns is the WrestleMania match.
When all else fails, the two biggest motivating reasons for someone to interfere or do that is, one, to put the locker room on notice, or two, to send a message.
Yeah. Well, that's not happening. I mean, they could do, because they did Sami Zayn versus Jericho tonight, so it looks like that's no longer on the cards for Fastlane. So they could just give someone Samoa Joe a sacrifice like Sami Zayn and just have him destroy Sami.
Yeah, although that has the potential to be a really awesome match. I mean, not for like the mainstream average fan at home that doesn't really get it, but I mean, for people that are into that style of wrestling, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they play it out like a throwaway, that would be very
well. Yeah, but you don't want to give Sami too much either if you're building Samoa Joe to be this monster.
Yeah, but man, like I don't know. How many guys can we have that, are in that monster category? Because I feel it's just kind of doesn't that, like, a Braun Strowman monster, doesn't that appeal primarily to like the 10 and under set? Like
No,
that
it's
style of
working.
wrestler?
I mean, look, I thought half the time, most of the times these pushes don't work in the end, but
Yeah.
it's been working. I mean, the guy is over and he's getting the reaction. So, yeah, it works.
Yeah, I don't know. I like someone who's who's a tactical fighter as opposed to, well, what's his thing? He's really big. And what else is he? Well, he's really big. And how's he beat guys? Well, he's really big. I think you need a little more there, a little more in the moveset.
No, I think you need a smorgasbord. Some guys should. Braun
gotta
Strowman should be a giant monster that destroys people. He shouldn't be this artistic wrestler, like in the ring. Like that would, there's a reason why you don't want Andre doing like, wrist locks and figure fours and stuff like that. What makes him an attraction is that he's this behemoth giant.
Yeah. So we went from that to the rematch that I know everyone's been looking forward to. Although I did want to comment one last bit on that last segment. I loved Kevin Owens calling Goldberg Bill. I just really enjoyed that little aside.
I will say this. I thought Goldberg, it's funny, Goldberg's style of promo is so different than everyone else in WWE right now. Yeah. He's got that very 80s, 90s, yelling into the mic. But I thought it worked really well here. And it shows like that. I mean, it's different, but it stands out. So I actually like Goldberg's promo tonight. I don't think he was supposed to say WrestleMania 33 because they're trying not to use the numbers. But
yeah, that's right. It's just an annual event now.
All right, it's WrestleMania, Orlando, I guess. But yeah, I thought Goldberg's promo was really good.
And further setting it up, we'll talk about the aftermath of it, but of Jericho getting Owens into that match, I thought was cute and how they did it. But that was followed by the rematch we've all been waiting for. If you didn't enjoy it the first
real quick with Jericho getting Owens in, so that obviously would lead to Owens blaming Jericho for him losing his title.
The slowest build up towards something that we've known was happening. There's been teased and then walked back and then teased and then walked back again week after week. Yeah. So only 2 months to finally make it happen, WWE. The rematch. Cesaro and Sheamus versus Gallows and Anderson. With Enzo and Cass ringside. What'd you think of that?
I thought it was a waste. But at least they're throwing Enzo and Cass in this feud. So I'm guessing they're probably going to go to a three-way at maybe at Fastlane if they can wait that long. So yeah, it gives Enzo and Cass something to do. At least Enzo's not getting buried for a while. So even though he was the one that was face planted, but yeah, I thought it was just. I'm kind of done with this feud.
I thought that was really muted with Enzo and Cass out like tonight. Their presence in the whole thing. I mean, it didn't seem. You know what I mean? Like compared to typically, I feel like they own a segment. And it was weird to just have them there for a segment.
Yeah, were they on commentary?
That's what I'm trying to think because I'm remembering it and I'm like, I don't remember Enzo saying a darn thing.
Yeah. I
don't remember the entrance. Like until I read the recap, I was like, oh yeah, Enzo and Cass were there for that. That's I apologize. Raj and I could be totally having momentary amnesia about this. So I apologize if a fan is out there like, you guys got it wrong. Enzo said something hysterical, but I have no recollection of them doing anything in that segment until after it was over.
Yeah, I'm kind of tuning off when it's Sheamus and Cesaro against, Gallows and Anderson. So I wasn't paying quite as much attention as I should. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he wasn't on commentary. So they're just sitting there at ringside.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah, that's kind of we're
The match was okay.
Yeah, everyone's confirming they were just at ringside.
Okay, because look, I'm going to let our audience in on a little secret here. We're not infallible. We sometimes get things we just sometimes forget because when you're watching this and then talking about it, it's like a quiz. Some stuff sticks, some stuff doesn't. I use the recap results from the website to go through to make sure I don't miss anything. Sometimes if we miss something, one of us will catch it. But yeah, it does happen. So I apologize for eagle-eyed listeners, as it were.
Yeah, so they won by disqualification after Big Cass booted, I think, Gallows. So Gallows booted Enzo. and then Big Cass booted Gallows, and that prompted the disqualification. So
God,
it's looking like a 3-way tactic feud.
God, Cesaro and Sheamus should get another rematch against Gallows and Anderson next week, seeing as this ended in DQ and all.
I'm sure they will.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? The villains have the belts now. We can use different faces against the bad guys.
Well, if you're using Enzo and Cass, you want to do it at the pay-per-view and not just do it on a throwaway match on Raw.
Yeah. Golden Truth. They're suited up backstage. They're ready to rock. Just send them out there. To make the magic happen.
We saw Shining Stars.
Yeah, we did indeed.
We saw almost all the tag teams except for Golden Truth on Raw tonight.
Kind of crazy. After that segment on Black History Month, Jackie Robinson, which I thought was cool.
That's so weird. I'm all for celebrating Black History Month. I like that they do these pieces, but it'd be like, in on baseball, if they're profiling a football player, like why didn't they do a wrestler? I mean, there's tons of wrestlers you could choose from. Ernie Ladd. I know they do these minor pieces on old WWF, African American wrestlers every year. So maybe they're just trying to do something different. But this just came across as like they just put all their African American stars reading from a script about someone who has no connection to wrestling. And Jackie Robinson, I mean, he is obviously a very important historic figure, but I don't know. That just seemed odd to me.
Well, I think definitely a groundbreaker in terms of professional sports and African Americans in professional sports.
Right.
But remember, they got to do 8 of these for Latino Heritage Month. I mean, they did one on Cesar Chavez. They were just
they're only going to do 4.
You don't think they'll do it on SmackDown also?
No, they'll air the same one.
SmackDown doesn't recognize Black History Month?
Well, they do. They just air the same one.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm sure there'll be some wrestlers there.
Maybe. But yeah, Jackie Robinson, I remember I'm not a big baseball fan, but I watched that movie. It's 42, right? Was his number?
Yeah.
And it's an amazing movie, and his, obviously his amazing career and groundbreaker. But yeah, I just think doing some stuff on, wrestling and like African Americans wrestling and how it's changed, or things like that. There's a lot of interesting stuff you could do.
I mean, do you think the WWE's own record, perhaps, with not main eventing African American talent, maybe is why they want to, like, hey, we might want to steer clear, even with the rumors of like Hogan coming back. Hey, we've know some talents had some issues before. We might want to not get this too close to the WWE. I don't know.
Someone's asking if there's ever been a black WWF champion or / WWE. Only The Rock, but Booker T, Mark Henry, they were world heavyweight champion, and when they held those titles, those were clearly the secondary titles, and the WWF championship was the main one on Raw. So as far as holding the most pushed title, at that time, only The Rock. But you look at The Rock, and it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen that Chris Rock, but he's talking about that special he did, but he's talking about like his neighborhood where, he lives there, and Jay-Z lives there, and, Beyonce, and he's naming all these like huge, African-American superstars. And he's like, and my white neighbor is a dentist. He's like, so I think of that with The Rock sometimes. Like, yeah, you say The Rock, but he's also someone who's got so much charisma that he went on to become the biggest movie star, in the world today. So yeah, it is, a lot of that is situational. Bobby Lashley was, they did peg him to be world champion down the road. So, but yeah, no African-American WWF champions other than The Rock, who's half black.
And I think The Rock also has the same sort of quality Vin Diesel does, where every culture like sees themselves in him. Like every culture wants to claim The Rock for their own because he has such an interesting multicultural heritage. I don't think he's identified the same way that, for instance, like Bobby would be.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, they like when they do the Black History Month spots, I don't think they ever profile The Rock. Yeah. So yeah. So there is that. But that's the thing. It would be nice to see it more instead of having to have an African American on commentary to show that you're so diverse. Show it, in your product. When you gave the New Day their gimmick, it was so stereotypical that I thought it had to be a parody or something. And granted, the New Day changed it, tweaked it, made it work. Yeah. But you see R-Truth and all these gimmicks where there's like just this a handful of like characters that are really given, and I wish they would change that a little bit, and they are. Well, Apollo Crews and a lot of these other wrestlers, they're getting a lot better with it. But show it in the product and not with these video packages.
Part of the reason, it's not about tokenism or about like putting forth diversity in a forced way, but I think, man, wouldn't it be great, if Sami Zayn were to someday get the championship, he'd be the first Muslim champion since the Iron Sheik, back 30 plus years ago. I think that, diversity just sort of reflects society as a whole. And I think the more that they do that with the way, that they rotate guys at the top, I think just reflects who society is.
Yeah, I agree. And you see them go with transitional champions a lot of times. I don't see why they go with JBL. JBL was never more over than, say, like a Booker T.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree 100%.
Although I wonder if that makes it too big of a deal, though. You know what I mean? Like they can't put the belt on Apollo Crews and then Zack Ryder him, and 24 hours later, like you had it, you're in the record book, but you kept it for 24 hours.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Like it's got to mean something. It can't just be just cause. But no, that's definitely interesting. So speaking of the New Day, we had the New Day versus the Shining Stars. And that was a very, mix and mashup of cultures. I love that Corey Graves was putting over the Shining Stars and the Shining Star Resort throughout this entire thing. I mean, that was the high point of this match for me, as opposed to the match itself.
Corey Graves is great.
Yeah,
I think he is. He's one of the shining spots on commentary. Morrow, I think has just been dragged down with being with three other people, and because him and Lawler were so good together, and kind of where they're at now, it's just. It's just too bad because they could have Lawler if they want to and get rid of the other guys and just more on Lawler, and that would make SmackDown's commentary so much better. And but yeah, I think Corey Graves and Michael Cole, if you just had the two of them, would probably be better. Even though Byron isn't that bad.
Byron, I think, has a certain charisma to him. Plus, I think Corey Graves needs somebody that he can just tear apart, and he does it in a way. Strangely, even though Corey Graves is more vicious and biting with his insults towards Byron, JBL just seems downright mean half the time when he does it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like if you told me JBL was just like an angry drunk out there doing commentary, I would absolutely believe it. Because it just something about him just has this venom that's insane.
Yeah, I think JBL, I used to like him on commentary back in the day, but I just think he's gotten hard to listen to.
Yeah, it's week to week. It just depends. Before people on SmackDown is just way too much, and not. I mean, I think they're compensating for Otunga. I think, I let him interview people. Just something else. It really just doesn't add anything. But to tonight's match, I think this was where the New Day should be at this stage in the game. We've talked about this before. They don't need titles. They don't need belts. It's their own show when they come out there. They're so massively over. Even with the Shining Stars, this was still an entertaining segment. It didn't go on too long.
I thought for this was one of the better New Day segments in a while. So yeah, I thought this was good.
And the big news
for what it was for a segment with the Shining Stars, this was good.
New Day ice cream apparently coming soon.
It sounds like it. They have cereal, so ice cream doesn't seem as far fetched.
Yeah, that's what it's. CM Punk going to get his ice cream bar, but the New Day will get the return of the WWE ice cream bars. So in a moment, we're going to talk about my match of the night, Sami Zayn versus Chris Jericho. But before we do that, I want to take a moment and thank our sponsor of this episode, which is DDP Yoga, DDPY. You've heard us talk about them. Look, do you know it's 5 weeks into 2017? That means the year is actually now, I've said it's close to 10%. Now it's 10% done. What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your health? What are your goals for 2017? Get DDP Yoga, DDPY. Let that help you accomplish your goal for 2017. Own your life, own your health with DDPY. It's used by guys like Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, Mick Foley, Goldust, tons of WWE superstars. Love it and live by it. Specifically, their awesome Max Packs. And for a limited time, we've got a deal for you. You can get the DDP Yoga Now app, 3 months of full access for 25% off. Or if you want the DVDs as well, you can get those for 25% off. And that comes with 3 months of full access to the app. Now, on that app, you're going to get cooking lessons from Diamond Dallas Page himself, teaching you how to make healthy food taste amazing. He's going to give you motivational messages every week to help you stay on track. And if you want to partner up with a friend, if you want an accountability buddy, they've got the deal for you. Right now, you can buy a Max or Combo Pack at 25% off and get 50% off the second one. Sign up with a friend, get in shape together. DDP Yoga, DDPY. It's 2017. It's already February. Get on track. Go to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. That's ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. And we thank them for sponsoring the podcast. So yeah, they had the plug of the Elimination Chamber. They talked about the Rock and Roll Express going into the 2017 Hall of Fame. What do you think of that induction?
I think it's great.
Package, yeah, the
package, especially because some of the other names that were rumored, like the natural disasters and I forgot who else, but I think this is a much better choice. So yeah, I think it's well deserved. And WWE, the WWE Hall of Fame, they've never made it completely clear, like, is it a U.S. Wrestling Hall of Fame? Because it's clearly no longer just a WWE Hall of Fame, because they had the Freebirds in there, Sting, who didn't have a Hall of Fame career in WWE's. So, and they have Fujinami in there. So yeah, I think if you're looking at all the tag teams out there, Rock and Roll Express definitely deserve to be in.
I think they're a good choice, and yeah, I think that the package especially really put them over very well. They were one that I remember when I was kids as not really getting as much, because I don't think they were really geared towards kids. And it seemed like tonight it was very interesting with the package, showing them as, a fan favorite with the females in attendance at every event.
Yeah, it's interesting with the tag teams going in now. Like, could they do the Hart Foundation? Because that have Brett kind of going twice, or the British Bulldogs. So
yeah,
and they're not going to do the Bulldogs right now because actually, is Dynamite Kid part of the concussion lawsuit? I think he is.
Is he?
Demolition is, so they're not going in. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they go that route.
With the Hart Foundation, isn't the issue still with Owen Hart's wife? Still, isn't there something that's ongoing there?
No, I meant the Hart Foundation with Brett and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, not the faction when they did it with Owen and Bulldog.
Version. That would be interesting. Although I think that will just confuse people.
I don't think the Hart Foundation was, when they were the faction, was around long enough to warrant a Hall of Fame induction. I mean, they were the most over group, for like 6 months, but they didn't have that longevity.
Interesting. I think we're going to get the point soon. And we talked about this when we were trying to even come up with a wish list for this year, where, man, time better keep passing. Some more people better retire, because it's going to be kind of like, oh yeah, that's a good pick, but not like, yes, I'm so pumped that this guy's going in the Hall of Fame. It's going to be more like solid choice.
Yeah. You still got The Rock. You still got Taker, who will be coming up sooner than later. So yeah, there's still some names, but yeah, then it'll be
these out every year. It's not like it's just two. I mean, they really need to fill this out every year,
Yeah. I mean, they always have the one big star, and then but yeah.
Yeah, the people that you remember, like, oh yeah, I remember that was the thing.
Someone's asking the criteria for the Hall of Fame. Vince just asked the people to come up with names, and he kind of goes through the list, and that's pretty much it. It's not like a baseball Hall of Fame where there's all these votes and second votes and stuff like that.
Yeah. I could think maybe next year or the year after, maybe China finally, or do you think they'll try and do that with something like this year and try and like more quietly slip that in as a respect thing?
Well, they usually only do one dead wrestler a year.
Yeah, that's true.
And who are they doing this year? I'm forgetting. I guess they could do her.
Yeah, I don't know. I bet that's the thing. I'm wondering almost if they'll do it as sort of a top line thing and make a big deal out of it, or be like, we're just going to do this now to kind of say we did. People will stop asking us about it. It will be done. It'll be interesting to see how they play it once there's more distance on the whole thing. But after that package, Sami Zayn versus Chris Jericho with Kevin Owens ringside. So I went into this match not even getting my hopes up, because I feel like every time I get my hopes up with Sami Zayn, it's like Charlie Brown in the football and they just yank it away from me at the end. And even though he puts on the better match and deserves to win, he doesn't win. That was this to a T tonight. But that being said, I really enjoyed it. And I thought Owens interfering made absolute sense. And I would hope they would continue something with Zayn and Jericho, although you're telling me they're not going to be doing that for Fastlane.
I don't know, but it's Rick Rude for the Hall of Fame this year. Thanks, guys. So they probably won't be doing China then. But about Zayn and Jericho, I think with it, this seemed like it didn't seem like it was a continuation the way this match was designed. So it does seem like they're probably going to be doing something else with Jericho at Fastlane.
Somebody asked on Twitter about our favorite finishing moves and what we think the worst finishes are. And I'm actually going to say, and going on record with this, as much as I love Sami Zayn, I do not love the Helluva Kick. And I think it's kind of just kind of okay finisher. I think Zayn actually, the Blue Thunder Bomb, what he does with the Sunset Flip Power Bomb, the way he does it with the reversal, that should be his finisher. But he can only do that against a really skilled opponent. He's done that like with Cesaro. He did that bunch in NXT, but where he does the reversal power bomb into the Sunset Flip Power Bomb, like that's amazing. If he could do that as a finisher every match, that should be the most protected finisher in the WWE because it looks incredible. But what do you think? What do you think of the Helluva Kick?
The way he delivers it looks like it legitimately hurts. So it's effective in that way.
To me, it looks like it hurts him. That does not look like a comfortable move to do.
Yeah. It all depends on, if the finisher is supposed to be this over thing that, really gets you into the match, then, the tombstone and the pedigree, because they've been so protected. They're not the most visually spectacular moves, but so on that one end. But if you're talking about spectacular, then, there's the Red Arrow and Mustafa Ali's moonsault. So.
Yeah, I think he's got an incredible moveset. Although my favorite part of the match tonight with the Helluva Kick, I like when they do the miss with that, when the guy gets out of the way at the last second. I wonder if that was planned, that Jericho got out of the way halfway through, so Sammy just stopped it and didn't even bother to miss. Just kind of like, this is going to look ridiculous if I keep doing it. I'm just going to stop. I don't think I've seen him do that before, like stop it midway through the ring.
Yeah.
That was a nice little touch. And I thought it wasn't quite a botch, but great selling by the announcement team of Kevin Owens with kicking him to the face and that connecting. Because even I'm surprised they showed the replay on that. That did not look like it even came close to connecting with Sammy's head tonight.
I missed that, but
yeah, when Owens kicked him from outside the ring. But no.
The code breaker was kind of like he kind of like halfway got it.
Yeah. I thought it was an all right match. Sami Zayn in my mind does not put on a bad match. And with him and Jericho, I would hope they would continue this, because I think that they do have a fantastic match in them that would steal the show if they developed it a bit more and were able to do it. But I don't know. What do you think it's going to be for Jericho at Fastlane?
Who else do they got? I don't know. Sammy does make sense just with, with the people with storylines and everything right now. But it just didn't seem like it to me. Starting a brand new feud. Yeah. They could just do someone temporary for Jericho to beat, and then, he wrestles Owens at WrestleMania for the title. For the US title.
Now, this isn't ever, obviously, but Sammy right now, currently, as far as in a while, is the first former NXT champion on the main roster who has not held a belt yet, correct? On the main roster, because technically Neville has the Cruiserweight belt. Neville, Owens, Finn.
How far back are we going? Are we talking about like Bo Dallas and Big E? Because Bo Dallas hasn't held anything.
It's been a while. I'm saying it's been a while since an NXT call-up has not gotten that opportunity. Which I think is
but it's still early. Sammy's only been there a year.
That's true. Well, compared to the year though, I mean, like Owens' first year, Owens, which is funny too, right? Because for all those people talking about how, oh, Owens not the typical body type, WWE's never going to push him. Like he's had like a pretty fantastic run for not being a stereotypical wrestler.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's not pushed as like, even though he's been the champion and he's in the main event segments, you know, they don't protect him like they do like a Braun Strowman. You know, he needs interference in every match to win, that he wins. But Owens has gone way farther than I thought he would, just not from his talent, because I always knew he had the talent to, but just with just how WWE usually treats guys like that, and Vince especially.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and it was interesting. And I know a lot of people online tonight were commenting about like, you know, is Samoa Joe going to get to wrestle without a t-shirt on, you know, which was nice. It was nice that, yes, he did, you know, but I think that's for Owens. Isn't that more his choice? I mean, like, oh, that's how Owens prefers to wrestle.
Yeah. I don't think it does him any favors, but yeah.
And as a heavyset guy, we make the mistake. It's like in the swimming pool. We think somehow it's better. I'll go wear a shirt in the pool. That way, like everyone doesn't have to see it, but it's like, no, then you're the fat dude with the shirt in the swimming pool. Like they know it's a different level of shame, you know, just pretend you're at a water park, let it all hang out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There you go.
That's my advice to Kevin Owens. Like, don't have shame in it.
Or he just come up with something, you know, like Bam Bam Bigelow had a cool outfit. He was a big guy.
Had flames on it.
One man gang, you know. So Undertaker wrestles, you know, he doesn't necessarily wrestle shirtless. Kane, Mark Henry. So I think you can do something where you're not wrestling necessarily shirtless, but it looks more like an athlete.
So it's funny. I'm looking in the comments here. John Armstrong saying Sammy should win the U.S. title. Someone calling me a total Sammy mark. But let me tell you,
and you are.
I am absolutely. But here's the reason why. And by the way, it's almost one of those things like with Bayley or like American Alpha, where we've seen with some of these other great underdog faces. You could almost argue that putting the belt on them, while that's an amazing moment and we like glow in that for like a week after, it does kind of ruin them a little bit because their appeal is that they never win, and you want them to win really bad. So you really can only play that card. Like you can only play that once. And then it's like, oh, now they're the champ. What do you do? What do you do once they're the champ? You know, I made the comparison to Karate Kid before. The Karate Kid series really went downhill after Daniel won that tournament at the end of the first one. Parts 2 and 3 are nothing to write home about.
Part 2, I like part 2, but part 3 really sucked.
I enjoy in part 3 the guy that pretends he's like a Vietnam vet and he's really in reality like the same age as what's his face?
Machio.
You know, as Machio. Yeah. You know, I really enjoy. He keeps talking about back in Nam. Part 3 is terrible and enjoyable on that level. And strangely, the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank, which I'd always heard was terrible, is actually not that bad. I actually watched that about a year or two ago. But the point is, after they get this, look at the Karate Kid Part 2, how far they had to go to create a completely different set of circumstances to have it be captivating. And you know who I'll say they did this right with Bayley was with Bayley and Nia Jax. Because then you had Bayley as the champ up against someone that was so out of her element. That worked. And especially the way they stacked it with Lil Nate as the ref and thinking, you know, Eva Marie was there and assuming that there was going to be shenanigans. Like Bayley, that defense against Nia Jax is the only time in recent memory I can think of the underdog getting the belt and having it be just as compelling against an opponent.
Yeah, I mean, the underdog story is done all the time. It's just how well you tell that story. I mean,
but what do you do after it? What do you do after they're the winner? You
have them defend.
And that's not as interesting.
You're no longer the underdog, but like Daniel Bryan, he didn't lose any of his he wasn't any less over after he won the title.
It's not about being over. It's just about how interesting it is week in and week out. Now, the one story you can tell when the underdog wins is you can tell the Rocky III story. You can have the underdog get a little kind of out of shape, reclaim the eye of the tiger, get back on their, you know, mojo, you know, and then come back to it. I think that's like the way that you do it. Or perhaps the Rocky IV, but then we have to like kill a wrestler in the ring, and WWE's got enough lawsuits for concussions.
I think each case is different. I don't think Bayley is so much of an underdog that she can't be winning or, you know, like needs I think her, you know, her winning is not so far-fetched that she's, you know what I mean? Like it's not that much of an underdog story.
It's not, it's like you're the champ. wow, you won, you're still the champ. Like, it's just not, it doesn't mean as much, you know, but that first
We'll see.
time, man.
It all depends on how they handle it.
Yeah. I mean, American Alpha winning a takeover was so awesome. And then American Alpha as champions and in SmackDown, not awesome. You
Yeah,
know, it's
that's
just,
more how they're booked.
yeah.
They're put in with the same 5 teams every week, who everyone sees those teams as complete job guys, except for the Usos. So
Yeah. Well, what
right,
that's a subject for the Wednesday podcast.
right.
What's up with the Usos? Join me and Raj on Wednesday to get to the bottom of that one.
All right. So real quick, they
yes.
did Seth Rollins injury update, which was
yes.
no update. They just said his participation at WrestleMania is in serious doubt, and pretty much everything we've already said. He had the MCL, and that's it. Nothing more than that.
And interesting that they went from that to then just after the match that Chris Jericho won with interference of Kevin Owens to Sasha Banks backstage and Charlotte rubbing it in. Man, this is the thing. It's like when we have real life injury and kayfabe injury, it's like this is why people get confused and everybody thinks everything's a work and they don't believe anyone's ever actually hurt.
Well, if they're showing it on TV and they're doing backstage angles with it, then it's a work, you know. But anyway, I thought this just seems like it's trying to get Sasha more and more, you know, to get to the point where she finally snaps and turns heel, because that is supposedly the plan.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Maybe that's how you do the 4-way with Bayley. Interesting is that if it's literally Bayley against 3.
Yeah, Bayley against Sasha with Sasha as a heel. I think that'd be fun to see.
Yeah, no, that's well, we've seen it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but most people haven't.
Yeah, that's true. They could just do the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then what do you do with Charlotte?
Naya or Emma. Emma's debuting next week.
I know.
Emelina's debuting.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, Raj. You know, they said Brodus Clay was going to come on one week, and it didn't happen. Kurt Hawkins was.
Oh, they said Emma was going to debut like a month ago. They said she was going to be on next week, and they just dropped it. But I think it's for real this time. It's just, what do you do with her right now? Because unless you do something with Dana Brooke.
What's Dana Brooke up to? Hanging out backstage.
Yeah.
She was posting on Instagram. She was all made up and stuff.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to see her.
Yeah, she gets ready every week. So,
God, this got to be such a weird existence. So then we went from this to the segment that had just. I mean, if you want to know what crowd indifference sounds like, the second cruiserweight segment tonight, man, what an example of that. So it was hyping up the match on 205 Live. We had Austin Aries out there on the mic, talking to Neville for an interview, interrupted by Tony Nese, Cedric Alexander, Noam Dar, Jack Gallagher, and then finally TJ Perkins. So they're just building up now. There's going to be, I mean, I don't even know like what they're doing with this division. We came back and it was 3-on-3. I mean, was that the entire division? I mean, basically we saw the entire division tonight between this and the earlier match.
No, I mean, they have a bunch of other guys that they're not really using also, you know.
Yeah, the cruiserweights are like Wu-Tang Clan. In theory, there's a ton of them, but we all know there's like the core 8 guys.
Right, because remember they had the Bollywood Boys, and then they had Mustafa Ali, and yeah, there's been a bunch of guys that have shown up and then kind of disappeared. So
yeah. But man, that audience tonight, I mean, who got the biggest mini pop when they came out? I mean, maybe TJ did. It
sounded like Noam Dar almost. There was a slight pop.
But you could look at the audience, and the audience was, I mean, like just looks of confusion on people's faces. Like, who are these guys? And you have to assume if you were at Monday Night Raw, you must actually watch Monday Night Raw. Like, you should at least, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the cruiserweight division and how they've done it, but I would at least have a little recognition, you know, if one of these guys were to appear in front of me or enter, you know, a courtesy clap, if you will.
I know from being there live, as soon as they start doing those purple ropes, people are starting to, you know, go to the restroom or get another beer. It is what it is. I think that's the first thing they need to do is get rid of that. You keep the purple for 205 Live, that's fine, but stop telling the crowd, because they also take a lot of time between, you know, when they're setting up those cruiserweight ropes and everything. So that's when they add the video packages. It kind of deflates the crowd a bit.
Next time, Raw, I don't know if Raw is going to be in your neck of the woods or my neck of the woods next, but when one of us goes, we need to take a time-lapse video and publish that on Wrestling Inc. so people at home can understand what the audience experience is. You know, hell, do it non-time lapse, because I don't think people even make it through. They'll realize that it's just like, yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom, get some popcorn, get some more beer.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much of a break.
The big problem, another big problem with the cruiserweights, they don't wrestle all that much different than the heavyweights.
Yeah, which is weird, right? I mean, is that just
really?
The heavyweights
the guys are just so much better athletes, you know, with the heavyweights now than they were back back when the cruiserweights first debuted, you know, in WCW, when you had a very different, you know, the heavyweights were where you saw the big stars and the icons, and then the cruiserweights was where you saw this crazy action you've never seen before. Yeah, but look at what AJ does. That with the cruiserweights, but they have them slow them down and work the same style that the heavyweights do. So,
but look at what AJ does. Look at what Sammy does with some of those moves. I mean, no one's afraid to go on the top rope anymore. You know? Right.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, Roman Reigns is doing topes, you know, to the outside, and so you're seeing better matches in the heavyweights that you don't need the, you know, so. It's not different enough to be something to look that you get excited about.
Well, something we should get excited.
And they got a ton of talent on there. I'd like to see him make it work.
Something we should get excited about was after that match, which, by the way, Jack Gallagher, T.J. Perkins, and Cedric Alexander won. Jericho and Owens backstage want to show the world how strong their bond is. The Festival of Friendship next week on Monday Night Raw. This is one of those, the idea and the name and the way they sold it was so good, I'm almost afraid they can't possibly live up to the joke on next week's episode of Raw.
Yeah. I think Jericho and Owens will make it work, though.
Yeah, I tweeted I expect to see Fozzy playing with Jericho and Owens doing a cover of You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story. You know, just something to really sell it. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they pull that off next week. After that, more teasing the Elimination Chamber, and then the main event, Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns. So yes, the joke was made a million times if you were on Twitter, of people making the joke of Samoa Joe versus a Samoan whose name is actually Joe.
Samoan Joe versus Samoa Joe.
Yes. What did you think of the match itself? I mean, so before Braun Strowman interfered, I thought that they did a pretty good job of evenly pacing it and weighting it and giving it a pretty good rhythm.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. You know, they didn't have much time. And but you know, I thought, you know, Samoa Joe, they didn't have him be Reigns' whipping boy, and then, you know, he wins, you know, after Strowman interferes. He looked strong during the match, and then, you know, he got the outside interference from Braun. But you know, giving a guy a win over Roman on his first night in, I think that's what you should be doing. So that, I thought that was good.
So weird, though, that they could have him destroy Seth Rollins last week in that ambush, but with Roman, it's like, well, he can only win if Braun Strowman interferes.
Well, I mean, he attacked Seth from behind.
Yeah, so we didn't get a proper Joe entrance tonight. We didn't hear the music tonight, did we?
No, you did.
Did we hear it at the top of the show?
Yeah. He had the same NXT theme.
So it was the same NXT theme, but they didn't give him a proper entrance because he interfered Romans this evening coming to the ring.
No, he had a proper entrance the second time too.
Did he?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is the Raw where Raj and I are both questioning reality and what we saw. So I thought that,
I think the second time, for sure I heard his entrance music tonight, but maybe he didn't have. Guys, did he have the entrance with his match with Roman? Because Roman came out first. Oh yeah, he didn't, because Roman was coming out and then Samoa Joe attacked him before. Yeah. But he did have his entrance earlier. But yeah, it wouldn't make sense if he's doing the sneak attack before the match. Yeah.
Although they do it for everyone else. When someone interferes in a match, their music hits, which is always kind of like.
But that's different.
Which is kind of weird, right? How do they explain that in kayfabe? Like, hey, I'm trying to do a sneak attack. Your jerk's got to play my music. You ruined my thing. You know?
Yeah, I mean, none of that makes sense. I wish they would do that, make it way more organic. Even in a promo, when a guy comes out, Because if you're really thinking about it, what that means is the guy first walks over to the music guy, says, all right, I'm going to go interfere now, you know, or I'm going to come interrupt this promo now, hit my music, and then I'm going to go out. So, you know, I prefer it if they just came out. It just looks a lot more organic.
Yeah, definitely. That should be 1 week, Raj, when it's slow, just wrestling nitpicks, just every little nitpicky thing we have about kayfabe and the monster of the WWE. So yeah, I dug it tonight. I thought for Joe, I would like to see him get a clean win just to establish him, you know, continue on the dominant force. Love that he had a kayfabe response to Seth on Twitter. I thought that was fantastic. Interesting though, tonight, no Muscle Buster. Do you think maybe they're saying like, hey, maybe we want to lay off?
He hasn't been doing that in NXT either, right?
The last time I watched NXT, he did it. I mean, he did it against Finn. I mean, within the last year, he's done it.
Yeah. But recently, he never did it with Nakamura, did he?
I feel like he did. It would seem weird that because they wrestled some long matches, that it would be very strange for Joe just to omit that from his repertoire. But I almost wonder if now after Rollins, they're like, hey man, like this move is claimed.
Well, not just that; it's his finisher, and if he's not pinning Roman, then well, I know he did pin Roman, but. Yeah, I mean, Roman's a big guy, so I don't know. I don't know if you want to be trying that move on him.
That's true.
But, you know, Braun kicking the crap out of Roman at the end. Fans were chanting, thank you, Strowman. So, yeah, Braun versus Roman. Who do you have win at Fastlane?
Braun versus Roman? I mean, come on, man. Like, we know the company whose product we're watching and we know how they operate. I feel like it's going to be Roman. That's not like who I want to win, but I feel like that's the story they think they're telling. They think they're telling like the Sami Zayn story again, but if Sami would have not just lasted 10 minutes, but actually like risen to power and taken Braun down. I feel like that's what they're going to do with Roman.
It just seems like they've been building him so strong for so long that just to have him lose at Fastlane, seems like a waste. I almost wonder if you hit the Undertaker's music to a music distraction, and Strowman gets the win, and Reigns calls out Taker the next night on Raw.
Or I think that's why Joe interferes, so they can end it. If Joe has nothing else going on at Fastlane, then that's how they have Joe interfere in that.
It makes no sense for Joe because he's not wrestling Reigns.
No, I know he's not, but I'm just saying that it's just a way to kind of pause it. I feel like they throw some of these distractions at us sometimes. I mean, Braun is
not random. Usually, if there's a distraction, especially on the main, in a main event level, there's a reason for it. They're building to something.
Yeah, we need like an org chart of everyone who's got heat with everyone else at this point, because I feel like they're telling a very complex web.
Yeah,
of who likes who and who's aligned with who. But yeah, I thought all in all tonight, even though it was kind of a middling episode, I thought there were no segments where I felt embarrassed to be watching professional wrestling. So I think that's a win. Any episode of Raw, if there's no point where, I'm just like, thank God nobody is here because I would be ashamed to be watching this. That's a solid episode to start with, But I thought the pace moved. A lot of commercials, though. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. It just seemed like they went on forever. And it seemed like they'd come back, and within a minute they were going back again.
So what are you hearing about the meetings that were held at the WWE in the last week to sort of rectify the situation or come up with some replacements?
I haven't heard anything. I mean, the only thing, I think it was PW Insider said that there was some talk about Triple H versus Shane as one of the ideas.
What was that talk about some of the former female talents might be coming back for Mania?
I'm wondering if that's just for access or if maybe, they might have. I don't think it's to wrestle. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Someone's asking who Joe will face at Fastlane. It was supposed to be Seth Rollins, but obviously that's out the window. I don't know. There's like no natural. You could do, like I said, you could do Sami, but there's really no easy natural feud. There's so many heels right now.
Yeah.
Like Chris Jericho and Samoa Joe would be cool, but Jericho's a heel. Rusev is doing absolutely nothing. It'd be cool if you got him in that mix, but he's a heel.
This is where I think, I feel like they've been putting Sami at the upper mid card. I think this is Sami's opportunity right now with Rollins out, because they need another face that they can do something with because they have so many heels. I did want to get to the question that was asked on Twitter earlier. Someone tweeted asking, What are the five? What do you, in your mind, just what are your, Kyle Leith asked, what are your top 5 finishers in the WWE right now?
Well, we discussed it a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
but it just depends. I mean, the Undertaker's tombstone, when that's hitting the match, that really gets your attention. But it's not as spectacular as the Red Arrow, but it's an awesome finisher. So I don't know about top 5. If I had to rank myself, I'd say the tombstone, Randy Savage's flying elbow, the Superfly splash, the Swanton, Jeff Hardy Swanton when he used to do that, and I don't know.
Well, if I'm going all time, clearly it's Scotty 2 Hotty and Albert with the worm into the pin. I mean, come on, we all know that was like the best finisher of all time. But I think
Stone Cold Stunner, I'll throw that in there.
But no, of the current stuff, I mentioned I love that Sammy move that he should be using, that rolling Yoshi tonic reversal that he does. But of the current stuff, I mean, I think coup de grace, I'm going to count Finn's thing, Red Arrow, RKO, Sister Abigail, and probably Kinshasa, just because
Sister Abigail.
Yeah, I love Sister Abigail because I like the way he does it with the kiss and everything, and then the swift move and the throwback. Like I really enjoy the way he presents that it feels like a moment, and that makes it cool. Whereas with the RKO, I do like the RKO, just because the way that they work it in. I like when they get creative with the RKO, not just a standard one, but I love when like they mix it with the spear, when they mix it. Well, actually, the Sister Abigail into the RKO they were doing for a while there. I enjoy seeing that as a combination worked into another move.
Yeah. Yeah, I think RKO, they protected it enough too, where people aren't always like, John Cena's AA. People kick out of that all the time now that it's hard. It's not even a false finish anymore. But yeah, the RKO is cool. Canadian Destroyer is great, but it's like Mustafa Ali's moonsault. It's spectacular, but it's not like it's spectacular, but it's not like an iconic move in a sense, if you know what I mean.
He also asked what the worst moves are, but I think the worst moves, the answer to the question, are the ones we can't even think of. Sure, there's some moves we're indifferent to, but like the Shining Stars, what's their finishing move? Therefore, they might just
the Shining Star.
The Shining Star. The Ascension, what's their finisher? Yeah,
the leg drop, was iconic, but as something that really hurts, it's not up there.
He hits that finisher, man.
People's elbow.
But that's the thing. I think if you know a finisher by name and you can reference it, it's a good finisher. There's no bad finisher that you can name.
Right.
That's my take on it. So I know we're running a little long here. Matt Morgan's going to be back with us on Sunday. Raj and I will be back here on Wednesday to talk about SmackDown, the go-home show for Elimination Chamber. Is there anything else we want to cover? I think we hit just about everything.
Someone's asking real quick, because a lot of people have been asking about this, but Brock Lesnar appeared after Raw tonight, so that's weird.
Oh, they did that. Well, he did that last week again. Well, he was there last week, but he came out at the end and did a dark match. Well, not even a dark match. He did an open challenge. Big Show came out and then he slammed him.
No, this week he appeared.
Yeah. So what do you do this week? The same thing?
Yeah, but they usually never waste a Lesnar appearance, because it's so expensive. So that's odd. But yeah, he destroyed Big Show like he did last week. So that's odd.
Yeah, that is. I mean, maybe he was in town. Maybe he just worked out. He had to be in Portland for a thing.
Maybe. So yeah, so a lot of people are asking about what are the matches at WrestleMania. So this is I had posted this a few days ago. This is the rumored WrestleMania card. And so you can look at it. It was posted on Friday, I think. So you can go back to the site and look. But the current rumored card is Goldberg versus Lesnar for the Universal Championship, Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, Charlotte versus Bayley versus Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship, Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker, Seth Rollins versus Triple H if Rollins can do the match, Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho, AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon, John Cena and Nikki Bella versus The Miz and Maurice, The Big Show versus Shaq, and the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And I noted that that's 10 matches, and WrestleManias usually have, 8 to 11. So there's not much room for more matches on the card. I'm sure they'll do a intercontinental multi-person match or something, but
SmackDown women on the pre-show.
I wouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, they didn't even use them or used them in backstage segments or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Wanted to mention one thing. I don't know. Did you watch the ESPN XFL documentary this past week?
I did.
That was so good.
I thought it was very entertaining. It didn't really hit home what a disaster the XFL was, I thought, because I don't think they wanted to put Vince McMahon and Dick Ebersol into too much of a bad light.
Yeah.
But
directed by Dick Ebersol's son.
Right.
So this was not going to be shocking revelations.
And that's why you got Vince and Dick, participating in it. You never see Vince participating in those kind of things now.
But they had Bob Costas, who just continues to crap all over the XFL like he did when it was on TV.
Yeah, and then the commentator, Matt Vasgarian, is that his name? So, I mean, I thought it was really entertaining. It flew by when I was watching it. But there's a lot of stuff left out. But yeah, I thought it was, if you're wanting to be entertained for 90 minutes, it's really good.
Yeah.
I wonder, because there were some things with the XFL that I didn't think, like when they were first talking about it and saying making a reality, like it's going to be like a reality show within a football game or, something like that. I remember thinking, if you did a new football league and did it like with the 8 teams, I kind of like that idea and it's just owned by the organization. You don't have individual team owners. And then if you did like each week, you showed their training camp of the 2 teams playing, that Saturday night. And you kind of show like behind the scenes or, if there's disagreements off the field, during practice, so you kind of highlight the 2 teams, put it together real fast on, tape up to Thursday, put it together fast on Friday or Saturday, and then you air it before the game. So it's kind of like a 1-hour reality show that leads into the game. So it gets people familiar with the players and everything. I always thought that would be something that would be interesting but who knows?
They were talking. I like how they teased it at the end about them still talking. And
they're never going to do it.
I know they won't do it again. No one will give them the money to do it again. But it's
Vince has the money.
Yeah.
I mean,
now if it cost $100 million or whatever,
Linda McMahon blew $100 million for her Senate campaign.
Yeah. But that was almost 20 years ago. It cost $100 million. What would it cost now in the current media market? I mean, granted, they have the network, but the network's not going to get NFL numbers. Or
no one would pick it up if Vince McMahon was doing a football league again.
Yeah. I think that the documentary captured, let's just say, everything the XFL did right. The documentary included.
Yeah, there's some stuff I forgot. And so like when they were promising to go in the cheerleaders locker room and such a disaster.
But what's funny though? I posted on Facebook about watching that and being in the Bay Area. So many friends that were like, oh my God, I used to go to San Francisco Demons games, had season tickets, went all the time. Such a blast.
Well, do you know, I actually had an XFL site.
Really?
Yeah. It was xflpro.com that, we as soon as they announced the league, we decided to create the site, and I think we launched it like in October or November, like when it was getting close to debuting, and it was hot for a couple of weeks. Then it just died a quick death.
Wow! Did you let that domain expire, or did you keep that one?
Yeah, that one's gone.
Yeah, some squatter out there has that. I'm going to get tons of page rank with this. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, people remember it fondly. I think that, that documentary was just really, really cool. Very interesting to see it told in that format. I think that's my favorite 30 for 30 in quite a while. And the Ric Flair one is coming up soon, isn't it?
I mean, they keep teasing the date, but they haven't announced a date yet.
It's been in the works forever, so that'll be interesting. Cool, man. So yeah,
the guys in the comment section, there's some people asking about it, so I'm gonna send them a link so they could see what xflpro.com looked like. All right.
Oh man. And that's the thing. It's like, as you think about it, and I think with most nostalgia, it's the same thing. And I'm a big nostalgia guy for pop culture. It's very easy to convince yourself anything was awesome the further you get removed from it, you know?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, nice. So yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday, talk about SmackDown. And until then, follow Raj on Twitter. Check out WrestlingInc.com for all the latest on Seth Rollins, the behind the scenes news, and everything that's going on in the WWE. Follow me on Twitter for random ramblings about wrestling and my day job. And until next time, I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and we'll see you back here next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.